What's going on, Leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I'm the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome, and as always, I'm joined by the God of Night, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. And today we're going to do a video in the Hall of Spoilers. A long asked for video by the Leaguers out there. Top 10 Arrowverse villains. Now, just some rules here. We're doing individuals. We're not counting teams. So the Rogues, the Legion of Doom, you're not going to see that here. Straight up solo villains. Okay? Not teams. All right. DeepBoyce. We getting right into it, man. It's the nitty gritty, man. The top 10 Arrowverse villains of all time, baby. This is serious. This is serious business, man. We're saying business. This is some serial business, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, anyone who's not on this list, they ain't a good villain in our opinion. You know, which means we may have to do a Hall of Shame for
Indeed.
villains.
And boy, oh boy, do people like those Halls of Shame.
Evidently, man. Let's get right into our honorable mention before we get into our top 10. Y'all ready for this, guy? Top 10 Arrowverse villains, starting with the honorable mentions. DeepBoyce, man, start us off.
We got your boy Danny Brickwell, a.k.a. Brick, who came in to Arrow season 3, was it? Season 3.
Yeah, season 3.
Yeah, and this was when Oliver was absent from Central City. I mean, not Central City, I'm sorry. Star City, or is it Starling?
Yes.
They keep changing the name.
Let's call it
Star
City,
right?
Should have been Star City from the jump. That's bullshit that it wasn't. But anyway.
And there was a power vacuum. He came in, he picked it up, and he was basically just, like, he was straight up having his thugs, his hooligans, just run amok and just beat everyone up. Cornered the drug game, and it was up to Diggle and Arsenal and the rest of the team to kind of come together, and it kind of culminated in a big battle royale that was kind of dope. And you know, for the interim that they had him in there, he was good. He did his job well.
Definitely. And besides that, Brick was played by Vinnie Jones. You should know him, guys. He was an X-Men The Last Stand. He was the Juggernaut, bitch.
He was a former football player, or soccer player, as they call it in Europe, and then he transitioned over to acting. And he was, like you said, the Juggernaut in X-Men The Last Stand. And he was in a couple Guy Ritchie movies, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Glare Cake.
Yeah. I mean, Brick isn't dead, so I kind of hope he comes back. We didn't list him in our, villains we want to see come back, or characters want to come back, but I think he would be cool to come back. He was pretty good. He gave a good challenge to the Team Arrow remnants, so to speak. But anyway, next up, we've got Andy Diggle. Now, for y'all might be like, yo, why is Andy Diggle on this? That man was vile, guys.
He was a good heel.
He was a great heel, man. Like, he spent... he was working with Damian Darhk, and, you might have thought that he was under brain, he was brainwashed or something like that. But nah, the man just genuinely wanted to get at his brother, put his wife, put his sister-in-law and their child at risk. All that, man. Diggle, he was so bad, Diggle had to shoot him.
And Diggle loved this man. Or at least
Diggle loved
or at least the memory of this guy. I mean, this guy left his family. He betrayed his family and betrayed his brother, and it was just terrible.
Let's not even forget about his wife, because remember, he had a wife and a son before he was presumed dead. And Dick was like, yo, what about your family? And he was like, Fugats them. I don't need that.
What about those?
What about those, man? He's like, I don't care about that. He wasn't even trying to pay child support, y'all. Come on now. Once Diggle he gained Diggle's trust and they let him out of his cage, and he still betrayed him. Come on, man. Andy Diggle deserves to be on this list just for being a vile SOB. Yep. Anyway, DeepBoyce, who we got next?
We've got Talia Al Ghul, who was in the most recent season of Arrow. It's not the last season. This show's going to keep going. Sorry to scare anybody real quick. But
season 5.
Season 5 of Arrow, and kind of a surprise that they were going to put in Talia Al Ghul. I mean, her sister Nissa Al Ghul was a major part of the show early on, and they just decided to bring in Talia as, to have her as, I guess, to have the presence of the League of Assassins in the show. Ra's Al Ghul, spoilers, he's dead.
Oh, the remnants of it.
The remnants of it. because Malcolm Merlyn kind of took it over for a bit. But I guess you know how the League of Shadows is. You know, it's splinter cells, splinter organizations, various leaders always vying for power. And when your boy Prometheus was out there trying to hurt Ollie as best he could, I mean, he went to one of the most lethal women on the face of the planet, Talia Al Ghul, who did a fantastic job in kidnapping Oliver's family, sending out ninjas all over the place. A veritable threat.
I agree, man. I mean, she essentially gave Prometheus his manpower. You know what I mean? Because that was something he was probably lacking early on. But, you know, I don't know if it was a remnant of the League of Assassins or rather kind of like a splinter division that decided to follow her. Regardless, she had some trained assassins that she was working with. And, you know, she did a bang-up job, man. And, you know, we could see her return in future seasons, which is pretty dope. Pretty damn dope. But anyway, our last honorable mention happens to be related to our previous entry. We're talking about the father of Talia Al Ghul, Ra's Al Ghul himself, the head of the demon himself, specifically first half of season 3, Ra's Al Ghul. Because, I mean, the way he scooped up Oliver Queen, man, he stuck that sword in his body and the CGI wasn't that great, but it was a great battle, bro.
I mean, he gave us a great moment when he did that. Unfortunately, it didn't really follow through with the greatness as the season ended. And he had to get scooped up, and it was unfortunate. But when we first saw him, I mean, we had our doubts, but they were kind of delivering in terms of, you know, what they would have in Ra's Al Ghul and how they would implement him into the show, have him as a very imposing, intimidating presence. But like we said, only the first half of season 3, because after that, it just wasn't quite working out.
Yeah, I mean, for the first half of season 3, great character, great build-up. I mean, the way he took down Oliver Queen was just so it was this cool, common collective, I'm the better man type situation. I mean, later on, he kind of, you know, he was kind of being a wrench in Oliver's life to the point where Oliver actually pretended to join up with him. That's kind of where the downhillness kind of started with him. It wasn't, you know, Matt Noble's fault. It wasn't his fault, you know, him playing Ra's Al Ghul. It was more the writing. But he also kind of went out like a biatch. I mean, after taking Oliver down so fantastically, Oliver literally beat him in like a 30-second fight at the end of the season, and it wasn't great. It wasn't negative. Great. So, wasn't a fan of that. But anyway, let's get right in to our top 10. Top 10 Arrowverse villain of all time, baby. 10 plus seasons of Arrowverse shows. Who's in the 10th spot, DeepBoyce?
Number 10 is your homegirl Rhea.
Your homegirl
from Supergirl season 2, or pretty much towards the end of Supergirl season 2, the last arc. The mother of Mon-El, the queen of the Daxamites.
Yes.
Probably the best villain this show has seen yet. I mean, honestly, right. I think they took a very interesting angle. I mean, listen, you do not mess with this mother's kids.
No.
And you know, I don't know. At some points, while she was extremely dastardly, there was just something about her.
You felt for her.
I mean, you know, her planet was destroyed. She missed her son, and she wanted an heir for her people. And she was being both Queen Regent and mother at the same time, but she took it too far by trying to invade Earth. And listen, if you have me to choose between Earth and Daxam, I'm gonna have to choose Earth. This is my home turf right here. So Supergirl had to.
Surprising, shocking that you would make that choice.
I know I'm out of this world, but I'm actually from Earth, ladies and gentlemen. This is my hometown here. So
this guy said he knows he's out of this world, man. You need to get out of this world with them whack ass jokes.
But regardless, Supergirl scooped her up, spanked her up, and put the work on her. But you know, she came with a very formidable threat. Not an entire kingdom, but an entire colony at least, and they were just invading Earth.
Yeah, she definitely brought the army.
And you know, it was very reminiscent to what Zod did in Man of Steel, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it does. I didn't even think of that parallel. I mean, I guess the alien invasion, you know, we didn't, you know, that's been done. But I mean, the way it was done, I think was dope. The fact that she was unrelenting also was dope. She also just straight up killed her husband. Like, her husband wasn't down for the cause, like he wasn't ride or die with Daxam, and she was like, yo, if you ain't gonna ride, you're gonna or die. Yeah. And she killed him straight up. Kevin Sorbo, man.
I was
She
gonna
killed
say
Hercules, my man.
that's not just any husband. That's your boy Kevin Sorbo, man.
That's Hercules, brother. It's a demigod, man. She killed Hercules, y'all. But no, on a serious note, I think Rhea, the sympathy she tried to garner being, Monel's mother and just wanting her son back. I mean, aside from the fact that she was straight up, owning slaves up and Daxam and didn't see anything wrong with that. I mean, that was just, dastardly. But, she really tried to come at Earth. And it was the first time I actually said, it's honestly a good thing that Supergirl isn't on the same Earth as the rest of the heroes in Arrowverse, because that threat would have been a little less realistic if she was able to call in, all of her allies from the other cities. And I felt like she was actually a viable threat to Supergirl. Even though she didn't have, the flight and all that stuff that Supergirl had, I thought she was whooping that ass appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, shout-outs to Rhea. She's actually the lone female villain to make our list, man.
That's true.
That's not good for the female villains out there, for the women villains out there. You guys, I mean, they need to do a much better job with those portrayals, for in our opinion. You know what I'm saying? In our opinion. But next up, we got number 9. We got Brother Blood, a.k.a. Sebastian Blood, from Season 2 of Arrow. One of the greatest seasons of the Arrowverse as a whole.
Yes, sir.
Of Arrow, to be honest with you. So, Brother Blood, man, I mean, he was kind of like the other side of the coin when it came to what Oliver's doing right now. Dude was running. He was a city council member running for mayor. And at the same time, your man is essentially creating an army for Slate. You know what I mean? He was like Slate's third in command. And he was essentially plotting, not necessarily the downfall of Star City. What he was trying to do was create an army so that he can, enforce his will upon Star City, or I guess Starling City at the time, and change that. And in the process, he was giving people the Mirakuru drug, and people were straight up dying, bro. Because if you couldn't process the Mirakuru, you died. Yeah. So he's just killing people to breed a super army.
Yeah.
A super strong, super strength army of people with super strength.
Yeah, and I think it was an interesting portrayal of the character. I mean, at face value, it looked a bit different, or very different from what you normally see Brother Blood do in the comics. But I think they did a pretty interesting adaptation to trying to, take what Brother Blood usually does, which is kind of, create some super soldiers and kind of elevate his cult. He's a cult member, cult leader. And then to try to apply that into someone who kind of, may or may not be nefarious. You don't know right away. He's in office, and then he kind of gets involved, like Hazy said, in administrating this drug that creates super soldiers, and people that don't make the cut end up dying, which is very similar to, what a lot of cultists do. At the end of the day, they collect a lot of people, and then they have to drink that magical Kool-Aid, and they die.
I mean, Sebastian Blood in the comics, like you said, is definitely a different adaptation. Because Brother Blood in the comics, Sebastian Blood, is a member of the High Priest of the Church of Blood, which is known to worship Trigon, essentially. Trigon's a demonic entity, father of Raven from the Teen Titans, and he's an enemy to the Teen Titans. But I love their adaptation of him, and also he was low key trying to court Laurel Lane.
I don't blame him.
And you going after Oliver Queen's book right there. I mean, come on, you got to be a villain just by that. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, DeepBoyce, man, who we got for number 8?
We got your boy. I don't like bananas. Gorilla Grodd from The Flash. I mean, we're pretty much big fans of the adaptation that they've gone with Grodd.
They did a great job.
I mean, he's kind of low on the list because he hasn't been in much. He hasn't been like a major villain for obvious reasons, because it's probably cost a lot of money to do that CGI. But he was a character that people wanted to see when the Flash was announced, and as the show was going on, and it was, people got really hyped when it was confirmed that he was going to be in an episode, and the episode was great. And then they showed off Gorilla's City, and then that really got us excited to see what else would they do. What else would they show Gorilla City? Would we get more of Grodd and an army and Grodd versus the Flash? And they kind of delivered. I mean, the Gorilla City episode wasn't the best. I mean, I feel like the outcome of it could have been a little bit better, but a lot of it was pretty cool and pretty interesting. And they've done a fantastic job of adapting Grodd, making him menacing and ruthless and just a cold-hearted tactician who just wants to see, the supremacy of apes with him on top, of course.
Yeah. I mean, they've done well with the evolution of Grodd, you know, just from his first introduction to now. And, I mean, just for the line, I think he had one of the best lines for a villain so far, where somebody was like, oh, my God. And he was like, not God, Grodd. I was like, oh, snap. They done brought Grodd up. I was like, that was a dope line. That was a dope line. So, anyway, man, Gorilla Grodd at number 8. Number 7. And some people might feel like he ranked low because there's a lot of fans of this villain. But we're ranking Savitar at number 7.
Yes.
Future Flash, future Barry Allen, Time Remnant.
I mean, there were cool things about Savitar. I mean, I don't want to get too negative on the character, but you know, the look, the CGI look, wasn't the best, and I don't know. I don't think he really stood the test of time. You know, throughout the entirety of the season, there were times where it was really dope having Savitar around and knowing that he knows. Like knowing that he's one step ahead was kind of cool. But then when they really did reveal that he was future Barry Allen, it just didn't really pan out the way that you would expect it to. And I guess it's somewhat of a trend with the Flash TV show. I mean, not so much with season 1, but with season 2 and season 3 with Savitar, the final battles leave a little bit to be desired. And you know, I wasn't really too blown away by the final. The final fight that Barry and Savitar had, it just, I don't know, it didn't satisfy me.
I mean, I feel like there's kind of like a division along the look of Savitar. I mean, there's some people who like the look. And when I first saw him, I thought it was cool. But the more I saw of the suit, I really wasn't a fan. There's a lot of people who love the Savitar suit. And, you know, much respect to you. But personally, I didn't really like it very much. I thought it, you know, looked a little bit clunky. I know the purpose of the suit was to negate his... I mean, to, I guess, help Barry channel his speed because he was so fast. But, you know, when they did the reveal as Waffle Iron Face Barry, a.k.a. Time Remnant Barry, you know, I just felt like his plan ultimately stalled a little bit. You know, he went from this conniving, like, super strong, super fast character, you know, and I felt like the reveal dragged on a little bit too long. I felt like they also missed a prime opportunity here, and this is a big thing for me actually. He was a time remnant that you never actually saw. Future Flash, you know, the Flash from 2020 whatever, who kind of explained to Barry like, oh, you know, I brought in time remnants to defeat Savitar and it didn't work out. You know, one of those time remnants, Savitar didn't kill one of those time remnants, so that time remnant could subsequently become Savitar. Cool concept, but there was a time remnant at the end of season 2 of The Flash that Barry Allen brought in to help defeat Zoom, and he just died. And it was like, oh yeah, you know, I brought in a time remnant. He was okay with dying, and that was that. And I was like, I would have loved to see maybe that time remnant get trapped in a Speed Force and have time to rethink his decision and be like, yo, Barry Allen, that was probably a poor decision. Like, that would have tied really well into the end of season 2, which seemingly didn't have any consequences because it was like, yeah, I brought a time remnant in, and you know, all things ended well and at the end. You know what I mean? So I feel like missed opportunity there. And I also felt like Savitar was made out to be super powerful. But they kind of repeated some of the things they did with Zoom. You know, who we'll get to later on this list. Spoilers. But Savitar, you know, they had that, kind of had like a point where he like beat the crap out of Flash. But I was like, you know, we kind of saw that already. And, you know, his speed is intimidating. But I just felt like he never really materialized into the villain he could have been. You know, and also him calling himself the God of Speed, you know, I expected to see him have more of a menacing plan than to kill Barry Allen. Conceptually, great idea to have Barry Allen be his worst enemy. Fantastic idea. And the end result, having Barry Allen take his role in the Speed Force, cool. But I mean, the concepts about Savitar, like the fact that they mentioned it kind of briefly in the show, that he traveled back in time to become the very first speedster and, you know, hone his speed. Like, I would have loved to see like a Savitar origin story or Savitar origin episode. It would have been a great twist to kind of show his story and his journey so that you can sympathize with the character. Yeah. You know, one of the biggest things they said was, you know, this time remnant Barry didn't have the opportunity to, you know what I mean? I guess he didn't have the opportunity to kind of go back into his life after he was pulled out of, you know, the timeline. and he never got accepted. He even kept saying, "Oh, Team Flash never accepted me because I wasn't the real Barry." I mean, I would have loved to see them tell that story from his point of view, and I just felt like it was a huge missed opportunity because Savitar honestly could have been one of the best villains ever in Arrowverse.
Totally agree.
So mini rant there on Savitar, but DeepBoyce, man, on to number 6.
Number 6 is Damian Darhk, the head of Hive, who was a Arrow villain. Specifically Arrow Season 4.
Yep.
And also went on to be in Legends of Tomorrow. But I think we're really kind of mainly focusing on his entire season-long work as Damian Darhk in the Season 4 of Arrow.
Yes.
And, I mean, honestly, he was a very charismatic villain. And he definitely... they brought him in to, I guess, to approach a more mystical aspect of the Arrowverse. To kind of throw some mystical aspects during that season. And, it was interesting because he wasn't entirely just trying to be evil for the sake of being evil. He wasn't just trying to take over Star City just to destroy it. Or, because he has some sort of, twisted mandate on how he felt that crime should be solved. He was, half evil villain, half businessman. I mean, he kind of came in there to really use Star City for his needs and the needs of his organization. And obviously, the Green Arrow was a big thorn on his side and something that he needed to take out. But as, they became more acquainted with themselves, Ali and Damian Darhk, he realized, I have to really to attack the root of this problem. I have to attack the root of this Team Arrow, and I can't just take out the Green Arrow. I have to obliterate everything that he stands for and everything that, I have to really take out the heart, so to speak, behind Green Arrow. And he really hit Ali hard. Personally. I mean, obviously, in earlier seasons, he suffered some very personal tragedies, but, Oliver was really off kilter during that season, and Damian Darhk was really testing him, testing his mettle and testing, his composure. And this is kind of the beginning, or I guess he was hitting his stride, Oliver, in terms of being the pacifist and not really going out there and killing people. And Damian Darhk was really testing that. And it was very difficult for Oliver to kind of solve the Damian Darhk problem without putting an arrow through the guy's heart.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, the interesting thing is, I mean, I didn't really like Arrow kind of going back and forth between should I kill people, should I not? Like, just make a decision. But ultimately, he forced Oliver, like you said, to break his promise not to kill. And he killed him. He felt like he was a villain who had to make that exception. Also, Damian Darhk is, responsible for one of the more vile things, two of the more vile things in Arrowverse, which is one, killing Laurel Lance, Black Canary, outright. Dude just straight up killed her. I don't know if there's a character who's killed a main character like that, like in that capacity, where it's like, no, she's really dead, like 100% dead. She's not coming back. And Damian Darhk did that. Additionally, I mean, the plans for Hive didn't live up to expectations. We kind of wanted Hive to be more of a threat. The group, not necessarily Damian Darhk. Essentially, they just turned into, a bunch of suits who really just followed Damian Darhk. But their big plan was Project or Operation Genesis, which was to, eliminate the evil and darkness in the world through nuclear holocaust. And then the people they select, chosen by Hive, would rebuild society and, build the world in their image. And although he failed in the ultimate attempt, he did end up launching a nuke. And Felicity had to redirect the nuke, and it destroyed a town. Like a town of smaller, of a smaller population, but... Ragman's town, we found out in the subsequent season. So that's a big deal. Nuclear, I feel like, the way nuclear weapons are portrayed is sometimes like, oh, if you're outside the blast radius, you're fine. Even though it's a really big bomb. It's like, nuclear weapons have some big implications, you know what I mean? And also, nuclear weapons have only been used once in history. Or twice, rather, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I mean... For the fact that he launched a nuke and it worked, that's crazy. So Damian Darhk at number 6, everybody. Number 5, we've got Malcolm Merlyn. Particularly season 1 Malcolm only because, oh my God, Malcolm Merlyn they use him too much, man. Like, John Barrowman did a fantastic job as Malcolm Merlyn throughout his whole appearance in the Arrowverse. But I felt that he was at his best in terms of villainy in season 1. I mean, he did some wild stuff in season 3, though. I mean, he manipulated his own daughter, Thea, into killing Sarah Lance. You know, his machinations basically led to him becoming the League of Assassins, but he never did anything with it based on writing. But season 1, Malcolm Merlyn, the man was Oliver's best friend's dad. And I felt that they made him a very sympathetic character in that, you know, he basically wanted to destroy the Glades because of what happened to his wife. You know, Malcolm Merlyn's characterization as a father and a husband and you know, also a businessman, but most importantly as a father and husband, were solidified in that season. And then you find out, you know, he's a smiling guy. You know, he's got a lot of love for Oliver Queen. Happy to see him back, but at the end of the day, dude was a vile person plotting to destroy just a poorer neighborhood in Starling City. And I felt that, I mean, he was also a formidable foe for Oliver Queen. Like, I remember the first time they kind of crossed paths. It was like in a warehouse and it was very dark, and he whooped Oliver's ass. Like, Oliver got his ass handed to him. And, you know, as season 1, it was very much established that Oliver had a lot of, you know, combat prowess. But Malcolm Merlyn kind of put him into place. You know what I mean? And the final battle they had, you know, on that rooftop was amazing. It was great. But Malcolm Merlyn at number 5, I think, is a solid pick. I mean, he obviously did some manipulations throughout his whole time in Arrowverse and on Legends of Tomorrow. But I felt like he was never used as well as he was in season 1. It never reached that, like, pinnacle of greatness.
Absolutely. I mean, like all your sentiments. I mean, Arrow season 1 was a revelation. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's the reason why we're even really doing this, because it's responsible for all these shows. And you know,
that's a good point.
Malcolm Merlyn is a big part of that. I mean, he's played such a nuanced and interesting character in that first season, and you know, again, he was sympathetic in a way as well. You know, and he was grieving, and he was in many ways what Batman could become if Batman were a bad guy. You know.
It's a good point. I never thought of it that way.
I mean, you know, they kind of ran him to the ground, unfortunately, and it seems like he's not coming back. Yeah. But we can never forget the Dark Archer, or Malcolm Merlyn.
Yeah.
Season 1.
Also, interesting twist with his character. I think a lot of us expected Tommy Merlyn to become the Merlyn arch enemy, and then it turned out to be him. And I think that was just a great twist for the character. And I just remember him pulling off his mask for the first time and the smile he had on his face. It was just so devious. Shout out to John Barrowman for his portrayal as Malcolm Merlyn. Number 4. We shouting out Mazda right now. We talking about zoom, zoom, zoom. Hunter Zolomon, everybody's our number 4 pick, man. DeepBoyce, man. Talk to us about Mr. Zolomon.
I mean, season 2 continued the greatness of season 1 of Flash. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Zoom, a.k.a. Hunter Zolomon, was a fantastic villain. I mean, really the only negative, and I'll just get it out of the way, the only negative was the final fight. That was just really the only negative. Yes. And I guess you could say his ultimate, his end game, his ultimate aspirations of just, I don't know, just being the fastest. I mean,
yeah.
But, hey, regardless, that entire season, he was such a threat. I mean, there were so many moments, that's just stick out. You know, there was the moment when he literally dragged Barry across Central City and just tossed his ass into the police station and told everybody, "This is your guy. This is who you got. This bum ass. You better fear."
He was beating his ass, and it was great.
I mean,
it was.
There was the back and forth of who is Zoom.
Yes,
it was just phenomenal.
Great mystery.
And just how he would take people prisoner, how he would just seamlessly go from Earth 1 to Earth 2, and the season, it was just, season 2 was so great because they continued a lot of what was great in season 1, but then they kind of turned it on its head, and they really had to just do things drastically differently. This wasn't the Reverse Flash. This was a beast, an entirely different type of beast, and And it's part of the reason why we put Savitar at number 7, because I just feel like what they did with Savitar was kind of similar to what they did with Zoom. There was too much of Zoom in Savitar.
I agree.
Zoom was the original, and that was that was a character again that I personally would like to see more Flash properties. It's not really like a character that I mean, Professor Zoom is one character, but with this adaptation that they took was really dope and it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was playing around with people, man. Like, he was just, I mean, the fact that he was, in disguise as Jay Garrick, hanging out with them, he just, basically took a time remnant of himself and just kind of had himself there in 2 places at once and whatnot. It was just well done. Also, Tony Todd, who did his voice, man. I mean, just the way he would say "That's Flash," yeah. Like the way the way he spoke, and he was intimidating. I mean, we didn't put him on our top 5 Arrowverse suits. But he also had a really dope suit with the, extended claws, the face mask, the way, like, the mask was kind of, like, stretched across his face. I mean, awesome manipulation on his part. The end game, that was really what kind of killed it for me. Like, I felt he kind of had Earth 2 under his foot, and I think he enjoyed that. And I felt that if the end game was, instead of him being like, oh, I mean, I know he was meant to be crazy and psychotic, but I think the end game of him saying, oh, we'll race to be the fastest, but in racing to be the fastest, we're going to destroy every single planet. I just never been a fan of villains who like, oh, I'm going to kill myself just to kill myself. Yeah. Like, Prometheus is a different story, and we're going to get to him soon. And I'll tell you, I'll explain the difference between him and Zoom when we do. But I felt like he was like, oh, I just want to race. Just like, why? Oh, so I could be fastest. But he wouldn't be teaching Barry a lesson. Like, Barry wouldn't have to live with the consequences because the whole damn multiverse would have been destroyed. If he would have said something like, oh, I want to destroy all the other multiverses and have Earth 2 be the only Earth so I could control it, that would have made sense. That would have been fantastic. But instead, they played around with it. Dope how they let him become the Black Flash, though, by having the time remnants, basically give him his comeuppance for, manipulating, running around and manipulating things a little bit too much. But ultimately, it was just the end. Like, the whole season, he was great. But that end just was disappointing, man. The whole mystery of who is Zoom was very well done throughout the whole show. Throughout the whole season, too. But, yeah, like you said about Savitar, it just felt like a pale imitation. Yeah. But anyway, number 3. Speaking of Prometheus, it's number 3. Prometheus. Prometheus. Now, I want to explain the difference between him and Zoom in terms of the end game. See, Prometheus is like, yo, I don't mind killing myself if it means I get to prove a point and force you to live with the consequences of what has been wrought. That is the key thing for Prometheus. Like, Zoom would have just destroyed the whole damn universe. But I'm the fastest. 1 second of bliss. Goodbye. Everyone's done. Everyone's dead. Barry doesn't even have to live with the fact that I'm not the fastest anymore. But Prometheus is like, yo, I made you choose between you and your son, Oliver Queen. Or rather, your son and your friends, Oliver Queen. And I just blew up the whole damn island that your friends were just chilling on. Goodbye. Like, Oliver Queen, was like, oh, I saved my son from you, ha ha ha. Prometheus is like, oh, you didn't think I would kill myself? Think again. Like, Prometheus did a great job. I mean, the whole season, just the creepiness of the character, us being thrown a swerve, thinking Adrian Chase was secretly Vigilante, because in the comics, one of the alter egos for Vigilante, there's been many people who've had the mantle, but one of the alter egos is Adrian Chase. But us being completely thrown for a loop, and Adrian Chase actually being Prometheus, extremely well done. I mean, Prometheus was he was always one step ahead of Oliver. Oliver was never, like, able to really beat Prometheus. And that was the thing. He never really beat Prometheus. Like, he may beat him in a fight, but he didn't get the last laugh in the end. You know what I mean? I think Adrian Chase, Prometheus, I think it was well done. I also love that they tied it into, Oliver's crusade, where, Oliver killed someone who wasn't necessarily seen in season 1, Justin Claiborne. They did it via flashback, but having Adrian Chase being his, son was great, man. And Josh Segarra did a fantastic job of balancing, friend to Oliver Queen and, general nice guy, good guy, with also the sadistic, obsessed nature of Prometheus, man.
No, totally agree. And Prometheus is also up here because, season 5 really revitalized Arrow. Season 3 and season 4 were kind of slip-ups for the franchise, for the show. But they I feel like they really took it back to basics and just did what this show was good at in the first 2 seasons, and just get someone that is very cerebral and someone that is always 2-3 steps ahead of Oliver, whether they're conniving or cunning or just more powerful than he is. And that was, I guess, what was so interesting and so great about Prometheus. He never got old. He never got old, and they really
that's exactly what I thought.
They paced him out so well, and whenever they would bring him back out and he would do something, present a roadblock for Oliver, it was always just fresh and fantastic and just interesting. And that the finale of that season was great. It was a great way to end the show. And he really took Oliver to the edge. And he kind of, what they did with him was something I did not expect them to do on a CW show.
Yeah. I think it was, and it's, I'm normally not like I'm not really not too much of a fan of villains killing themselves, but I felt that Prometheus was one of those situations where I was like, damn, that was really well done. Like, even if he had lived, I couldn't picture this man ever giving up, fighting Oliver. And I think that was the point. Also, in the season, he broke Oliver. Like, he straight up broke the dude. Took him, tortured him, made Oliver admit he enjoys killing. You know what I mean? It made him face who he really was. He also had an inside man on Oliver's team way before we even expected there was an inside man on the team.
What was her face? Smush Face McGee?
Smush Face McGee. She was always like grumpy in that show, man. Freaking Artemis. Who, I wasn't a big fan of the portrayal of Artemis, but she played her part. Man. But anyway, Adrian Chase, Simon Morrison, Prometheus, whatever you want to call him, fantastic villain, worthy of number 3. But there are 2 more people more worthy than Prometheus, y'all. Number 2, DeepBoyce.
Eobard Thawne, also known as the Reverse Flash. Season 1 of Flash was phenomenal. And in large part because of the villain, Eobard Thawne. The twists and the turns, and the fact that the bad guy was right under your nose the entire time. And they kind of, you had doubts, you had thoughts, but they did it in such a way that you didn't know exactly what was going on. And even you started second guessing yourself. Is it really Professor Harrison Wells? Is he hiding something nefarious, or is he hiding something for the good of Barry? What exactly is going on? What is this future newspaper headline? And as the season went on, it ramped up, and it got better, and it got better, and it got better. And then finally, when you saw basically a more powerful version of the Flash, a person who has the Flash's powers but has more experience than him, is able to kind of phase his face. You can't see who he is. You can't really hear who he is either. He can kind of just phase his hand and, kind of just stab people through the chest. He can make Speed Force, or I guess like copies of himself. His powers were just ridiculous.
Yeah. He was a beast, man. Let's be clear. We're not just talking about Tom Cavanaugh Reverse Flash. We're also talking about Matt Letcher Reverse Flash, because it's 2 actors who portrayed him. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Harrison, and in a way they've done 2 different versions in that respect. I feel like Harrison Wells Reverse Flash, that Tom Cavanaugh played, I felt like he kind of had that like underlying creepiness, where he genuinely did grow to see Barry as like a son. And there was this like almost like Eobard Thawne in the comics, they haven't really gone into his origins, which, oh man, I would love to see them do that. I would love to see them go into his origins. And that is definitely something that they're going to do on the show before the show ends. 100% they will go into the background of Eobard Thawne. And I have no doubt that he'll return as a villain again. Despite what happened to him at the end of Legends of Tomorrow. But, I feel like that creep factor was there, where he saw Cisco and Barry as kind of like surrogate sons, but at the same time, he was still that conniving, evil dude, man. Just the machinations of Reverse Flash. My man went back in time, and because technically speaking, there was a timeline where he did not go back in time, and he did not kill Barry Allen's mother. There has to be a timeline where that, is in effect. But what he did was he created a time loop by going back and killing his mom and perpetuating and creating the Flash earlier than he would have normally become the Flash, because he actually admitted that he made the Flash become the Flash earlier so that he can get back home, because he was trapped back in time. He was trapped in a previous time, earlier time than his 25th century home upbringing. But I mean, aside from season 1 Reverse Flash, I mean, Matt Letscher has done a great job at just genuinely hating Barry Allen and just coming in and manipulating him for wherever he wants. I mean, I just remember in Flashpoint in the beginning of season 3, where, you know, Barry had him locked up and was like, yo, Barry's like, you're never going to hurt anyone again. And, you know, Reverse Flash just laughed in his face like, bro, you're the villain of the story. You don't even get it. And I just felt like that was just such an awesome portrayal. I mean, he was also fantastic in Legends of Tomorrow. Now, that being said, the writing of Legends of Tomorrow didn't necessarily do him justice. But, you know, him searching for the Spear of Destiny to change his fate of being erased from the timeline. I mean, it was just, he just brought such a seething, creepy feeling to the character, man. I just love Reverse Flash, man. I can't wait to see him again.
No, totally.
I love Reverse Flash.
Absolutely.
DeepBoyce, numero uno, number 1. Who it be though?
I mean, this choice by B just
this is obvious.
But number 1 of our top 10 Arrowverse villains is Deathstroke, aka Slade
Deathstroke.
Wilson, the Mirakuru infused mercenary.
I almost thought you were going to throw me for a loop there with that slow introduction. You were going to be like, the number 1 villain is Non from Supergirl.
Number 1 villain is
with his Kryptonian
number
pajamas.
Number 1 villain is Cyborg Superman.
But Deathstroke the Terminator, everybody, man. Slade Wilson, played by Manu Bennett. The dope portrayal of Slade Wilson, man. I think the best thing about this villain, I gotta say, is a slow burn. I think a slow burn villain, and, you know, Grodd has potential, you know, number 8 on the list. He has potential to be this, but Slade kind of had that build from season 1 where, you know, you knew that he was Deathstroke. You knew his alter ego would be Deathstroke in the future. You just didn't know how it would play out. And then, you know, in season 2, he just shows up at freaking Oliver's house. He's like, hello, kid. You know, hey, kid. It was just like that. It threw me for a loop completely. Like, I did not expect him to just pop up in the present so quickly. And there was even a question as to, you know, what the hell was going on in that respect. Like, how did he turn evil? And I felt that, you know, honestly, I wasn't too happy with the, you know, over a girl thing, you know, with Shadow being the impetus to him and Oliver being at odds. But I did like the Mirakuru craze. I loved his plan for Star City, which was to take it over and just destroy it just to get back Oliver Queen. Because Oliver Queen took something he loved. He's like, yo, I'm going to take something that you love, man. And, you know, just the brotherly bond they have, man. Like, the fact that he honestly does care about him, which is why he grew to hate him so much.
I mean, it's,
you know what I mean?
They did such a good job getting you to like him and then getting you to really fear him and despise him for some of the things he went out there and did. I mean, he straight up killed Moira Queen.
In front of his face.
Very beautiful, might I add. Moira Queen just stabbed her and just I mean, dirty, vile things. I mean, again, when you talk about iconic scenes, I'll just never forget the cliffhanger they left us on when Oliver went back home. And they're like, hey, Oliver, we got a guest. And he turns around and you see the eye patch. And he's like, hey, kid. Hey, kid.
I mean, I don't even know if he said that. I think it was more like, hello, Mr. Queen. But, like, it was just... it's just so... I mean, he had that smirk on his face. And, you know, his mom's like, Mr. Wilson is here. Is, you know, just that, like... It was so creepy where it's like, yo, your enemy's literally sitting on your couch. And your mom is welcome him as a guest.
And the season 2 with Slade, that was by far the best, just like straight up season in terms of, because the flashbacks were also good, where you find out the backstory of Slade and how it got to this point, and just, I mean, seeing them team up in the flashbacks and then suddenly seeing them go off against one another, it was just exciting week to week. There was just, I don't think it was a week. It was a week during that season 2 of Arrow. I don't think there was. It was just exciting from beginning to end, and he was in large part of it. That's why people were waiting. People were dying to see him come back, and it's part of what made season 5 even more amazing when they had him come in towards the end. And it seems like maybe he'll be in another season of Arrow, or he'll maybe be in Titans. I mean, there are even rumors of him being in his own show.
Yeah, him trying to kickstart that, which I would love to see that, man. Bring Manu Bennett back, man. I mean, I love the fact that in season 5, you know, they kind of explain the fact that he's like, listen, like the Mirror Crew was still in my system. I did some vile things. I did some terrible things, but you know, I'm trying to do something different. So it's set up kind of like anti-hero Deathstroke for the future if they want to do it. Because I mean, Deathstroke in season 2 was just a straight up villain. But, you know, I like the fact that they gave him a reason to maybe have a little bit more redemption in his path, man. So Deathstroke at number 1, Manu Bennett, I mean, all hail the king over here. He was the best, man. I mean, also, I just love the way he would just speak to Oliver, man. It was just like, he was another one. I mean, he was so manipulative, man. Like, he had Oliver at every turn. Killed his mom right in front of his face. His mom. That's crazy. And he made it. He like emulated the decision that Ollie had to make between Shadow and Sarah Lance, which he didn't really like choose Sarah Lance. He kind of just jumped in front of her because he thought she was gonna get shot, and Shadow got shot as a result. And I mean, Deathstroke, man, for number 1, man. But let us know what you think of our top 10 list of Arrowverse villains. We waited a long time to do this. Let us know what your top 10 list is, or your top 5, or your number 1 pick. Let us know if you agreed. Let us know if you disagree with anything we had to say in this video. By all means, Spectacular Spoiler League's opinion matters in this video, man. For this video, man. We waited a long time to do this one. We're happy to do this one. But anyway, guys, if you like what you heard today, hit us with a like. And most surely, you need to join the Spectacular Spoiler League by hitting the subscribe button and joining up with us. DeepBoyce, HazyRome, we getting out of all the spoilers, y'all.
Peace.